couple of years ago, we bought our little Caddy, and we've had the best 2 years exploring closer to home and further afield in our little home on wheels. But you'll know, if you've watched our more recent videos, that we've been contemplating getting something just that little bit bigger, meaning we can still go on amazing adventures but have just that little bit more space when we're exploring. So, introducing our new van. First up, which van have we gone for? So this is a 2018 Peugeot Boxer. Starting up front, it's got everything that you would expect to see in a van. So it's got sat-nav, aircon, a reversing sensor, and we're hoping to add a reversing camera because it doesn't have one of those. But everything you would really see in a standard van. But the reason we got this and what we're most excited about is what's in the back. Let's take a little look inside. When we headed to the NEC in Birmingham earlier this year to go and do some van research, there were 4 key things that we wanted in a van. The first was to be able to stand up, tick. The second was to get a medium wheelbase, which this is 5.4 metres. The third was to have a fixed bed, tick. And the fourth was to go for an aesthetic that we really like, so almost like a Scandi feel. Now, you'll see that this van isn't quite decked out in that aesthetic. However, it gives us a really good base that we can work from. So just to show you around the back of the van, as I said, we have the fixed bed here. It hasn't come with a mattress or anything, so we'll be getting a new one of those that we can pop on top. Over on the right, we have a little dining area. So this is a little 2-seater, but it also converts to be a little sofa, which is fantastic just to give us that little bit more flexibility in the space. To convert the table, you pull the top off, you remove the leg, and there's a little stand for that in the back in the garage. You lift up the 2 cushions and pop the table back in the middle, drop that down, and first thing on our list will be an extra cushion so that we can open this space up and use it fully as a sofa. The seating area is also home to a boiler which sits under this seat and the electrics box which sits under here. So this is our little dining and sofa area. Then spin you over to this side. The first feature to share is our little shower point. So just on the outside of the kitchen, there is a little shower point which attaches to a shower hose, and that's fed by the boiler, so we can have a nice hot shower after we've been for a wild swim. And continuing on this side of the van, we even have a little window so that we can cook dinner with a view. And coming round to the front of the kitchen, we've got everything you would expect to see in a little mini kitchen that you've got in a van. So we've got a little fridge with a tiny freezer area at the top. We've also got our gas hob, our sink, and also a cupboard, which is perfect for storing all of our essential kitchen items. The final feature, and those of you that are a fan of Tom's table in the original Caddy, we've got our own version in this. So we've got a little extendable kitchen area which extends the worktop and means we've got a little bit more space when prepping and when cooking in this van. And now we come to the back of the van and our garage. Now, we really probably can't believe that we have all of this space because actually the footprint of this garage is what we were working with before. So we're really excited to have this additional space. And what this is home to is our gas and our water. So there's a big water tank over here on the left, and then just behind that is the little water pump. And then under here, we have our gas. 3 final things to share about the back of the van are the lights that go all the way around the top, which are fed off of the battery. We also have the roof vent with a fly screen and also the main cover. And then the final thing is some really amazing storage space just above the cab. That is a very, very brief introduction to our new van, but we want to take it out on an adventure. But before we could do that, we know we needed to get some really basic bits. So we've headed to IKEA, and you can see that video linked just here, to get all of the things we need to get this van out on an adventure. And you can see those changes that we've made now. Thanks, Past Amy. It's actually been a few days since I filmed that clip, and we've been really, really busy trying to get the van ready for our first trip away in it. We've actually just arrived at our campsite and it's pretty amazing, but more of that in our next video. So before going on our first trip, we wanted to make sure that we had just a few quick changes to the van to make it more comfortable and ready for its first adventure. The first of those changes is the floor. So when we picked up the van, it had just a plain wooden floor, which basically was throughout, so in the garage and in the main part of the van. And what we've done is used all of the offcuts from our last van build, so over on our Caddy, to patch it, and just to mean that actually it's that little bit more comfortable. So rather than walking on a wooden floor, we now have a lovely vinyl throughout, which not only protects the wood but just makes it that little bit more comfortable when walking around in bare feet. The next thing we've done, which was very important because it didn't actually have one of these when we picked it up, is add in a bed. So when we headed to IKEA, we tested out all of the mattresses and decided on one to bring back with us. Current bed, new bed, hopefully a better night's sleep. And all we've done then is just add in all the bedding we had from our Caddy, which works perfectly, and it feels like such a treat to have a full-sized double bed in this space. The third change we've made, which you will spot from the back, is adding in this really simple curtain rail across the back of the van, and just some really simple curtains from IKEA. What this means is when we've got the doors open like this, it just feels that a little bit more private, and covers a bit more of the back end of the van. Although maybe white was a bad choice because it appears to be attracting a lot of bugs. But it definitely adds that little bit of privacy and means that we can have a beautiful view out the back of the van without having too much of ourselves on display. So now you join me sat on the floor of our van, and I want to share our 4th and 5th additions that we've put in before this trip. So the 4th thing we've done is added in a fire blanket and a fire extinguisher. The van already had a carbon monoxide alarm. We've tested that and that works, but it didn't have a fire blanket and an extinguisher. So we've added that in within easy reach of the kitchen should it ever be needed. And the 5th thing we've done is put in this toilet. So if you've watched the latest video when Tom went on a solo van adventure, you'll notice that he had that in that video with him, but it's something that we've never been able to have space for in the Caddy. So sadly, we're really excited to have space for it in this van. So this is actually a properly vintage porta potty. It's one that my parents bought when we used to go on camping trips when we were younger, and they still had it in their garage. So we've actually been able to borrow it and use it. Still works perfectly fine, and actually when we were researching it, it's not changed at all in design. It's still exactly the same, so really great to reuse that rather than have to buy a new one. And also we're just going to tuck this behind this panel when we're driving, so we've got some bungee cords just to keep it in place, but at night time we can then pull it into this position, so if we want to use it in the evening we can pull it forward and use it during the night. What I do want to do when I've got a little bit more time is just add a little curtain here, whether or not it's a little net or just a little curtain just to divide off the garage and the living space. It just means then that we can store all of this stuff in the garage without it making the living space feel too cluttered. The 6th change we've made to the van is actually to remove the battery, and for the moment that means that on this trip we won't have any electrics. When we first bought it, Tom took everything apart to investigate it and to make sure that everything was safe, and actually what we noticed was that the battery needed replacing. So we've taken that out, we've disconnected all of the electrics to and from the main van battery as well, so everything is disconnected and safe to travel with. And what we'll do now is look to replace those electrics in the future. What that does mean is that unfortunately on this trip we don't have the boiler, the water pump or the fridge working, or the lighting, but we're hoping to get that up and running for a future trip. In order to make sure we were ready for this trip, we did have plenty of battery powered lighting. I've got lots of different sets of battery lights that have got rechargeable batteries with them. So we charged everything up to make sure that we've got lots of fairy lights for this trip to make sure that we won't be in the dark when it gets dark later. The 7th thing on the list, and coming up into the cab, is a super simple change, but all we've done is added in these waterproof seat covers. It just means that if we're coming back from the beach or from wild swimming, or just from being out and about on an adventure, we won't get the seats dirty and we'll protect them for just that little bit longer. So Tom had some waterproof seat covers already in the garage, so we've used those, and it just means that we'll protect those chairs just for a little bit longer, and just looks a little bit smarter with them tidied up. It's been a really busy couple of days getting the van ready for our first trip, but I hope you'll agree that the really simple 7 changes that we've made to the van will ensure it's really comfortable for our first trip. Now, what we need to do is get out there and test it. So we've come to an amazing campsite in Devon to give it its first shakedown trip. But we won't be showing that now. Please watch out for our next video where we'll be sharing our first few days in our new Peugeot Boxer. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe. Please leave your comments below as well. We'd love to hear what you think about our new van and if you've got any really exciting van trips coming up, especially for this summer. And we will see you next time. See you later. Bye-bye.